Well, happy Monday to everybody. This is our 18th episode of the OpenGOTO Community Live program, and we're glad that you guys have been watching the show regularly, and you've supplied us with so many interesting comments and questions. So it's great to have you here. Already, I see that. Who do we got here? We got Dan Janisic, Peter Vissima. He says hello from sunny and hot Toronto, Canada. And Jenny Bedell Shelley, she says hello. So hi, Jenny. Yep.
It's hotter. It's hotter in Toronto than it is here.
That's true. Yeah, 30 degrees C is
86, and it's 83 here.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it'd be 29 here.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So we have some interesting topics to go over today. So why don't we get started with Jerry Hubbell and talk about several subjects. I guess I would talk with everybody about the worldwide support that we have in customer service for our customers. We get, being that it is the internet makes us a global community. We get questions from all over. Currently, I think that we're helping out a guy in Germany. What is the situation that the guy in Germany had?
He had problems. I think there's a couple guys in Germany we're working with right now, but this fella, I'd have to go remember. I think he's dealing with a used machine that he bought from somebody, and he actually got a Comet Hunter scope with it.
Oh, okay.
And he's having problems getting it connected over the wireless. I think, is that correct, Ken? I'm trying to remember that thread.
This is the guy from Italy, I think, specifically.
From Italy.
Wasn't it Cesaro?
Not Germany.
Close, sort of.
I think there's a couple people in international we're dealing with. What's the guy from Italy? Is that the guy I'm referring to?
Yes, I think so. The one that almost bricked his mount.
Oh, that's right. No, I think he's from France, actually.
France, Italy, Germany.
Germany, yeah. We have several customers overseas.
At least it's still on planet Earth, which is the important
Germany,
part. So.
Okay, the one from Germany is Ursine. He bought a pre-owned Comet Hunter and the Exos 2 PMC-8.
Okay.
Right.
And getting the system runs, problems with Android and missing SQLite data. I'm pretty happy, but there is a rattling noise coming out of the control.
Oh, that's right, the rattling noise, yeah. Mm-hmm. So he had initial issues loading Android, but he got that straight, and then he's got this used machine that he bought from somebody, and it's got a rattling problem.
That's probably coming from the stepper motor?
Well, he thinks it's coming from the box. That's what it sounded like, and I asked him a couple of questions, and has he responded yet?
No, there's no moving parts in there.
No,
I don't know where he's getting a rattling noise. That's interesting.
I don't know. The only time you would hear any noise is if there's a high current
inside
somewhere. It's got a lot of current drawn. If it's shorted out or something, it's making one of the chips is making a big oscillation noise or something. If there's an actual circuit failure, that could maybe happen. But I don't know that we've had too many circuit failures on these systems at all that I recall.
Ursine had replied back, thanking you for your prompt reply. The only information provided is, according to the previous owner, the set is from 2019, and he did not mention any issues with the mount.
Yeah,
that's basically it. So we're going to.
I think I sent him information on how to contact Ingo in Germany, our office there, to send it back to for him to look at.
Yep, that's what you did.
Yep.
And so Jennifer Shelley says the guy with a broken iXOS 100 clutch washer is one of the guys in Germany, and that's on our list of things to talk about. So
we'll talk about how to put the washers back in the right.
Right.
direction.
And so,
Sure.
so he had showed a picture, and it's in the mounts section. Let me go there. He had a picture pictures he provided showing a broken washer, which we've, I've never. I don't know how you would break a washer, or get a broken washer. But I checked the drawings and posted on that thread in the PMC-8 group the order the washers are supposed to go in, coming from. And Jerry, you might call this thread up. It's on the mounts section. That's because there's a picture I want to talk about as well.
Okay.
It's the very top one in mounts, and share your screen. It's possible clutch problems, missing parts. And so,
okay. Let's see here.
Once you get that picture from Joseph Richard up with his little telescope on the Exos 100.
Oh yeah, it's on the mounts.
We're going to have to hire Jenny to work in customer service.
So the order.
Problem.
Looking for the order. I posted it there. Oh, it's on the second page. So the order.
All right, let me. I'm going to share my desktop.
All right.
So the order is from the clutch knob. So the knob you unscrew, it's thick washer.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So this is, go back to that picture right there, Jerry. Stop right there. Okay. So it's thick washer. So we're moving from right to left. Okay. So it's thick washer, wavy washer,
right?
thin washer.
Well, that's a bearing. That's a
bearing.
Right. There's
like
a washer
needle bearing.
missing. There's a thin washer that's missing.
In between the wavy washer and the needle bearing.
Correct. And so there should be a wavy washer. Excuse me. So it goes wavy washer, thin washer, needle bearing, thin washer.
Oh, so he's missing a
thin
washer.
This is the second. Okay, this is out of order here. I think, Jerry, the second one from the left looks like the wavy washer.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure does.
You look at it.
So this needs to go over here.
Correct. That's in the wrong place.
That needs to go over here.
Correct. Other side.
This needs to go over in between these two.
That's correct.
Okay, so move your mouse over to which one should go first.
This goes first.
Okay.
This goes second.
Second.
This goes third.
That goes third.
This goes fourth.
Fourth.
This goes fifth.
Fifth.
And then
last. That's last. Okay.
Yep.
Is that right, Kent?
That's correct. Based on the engineering drawings.
And you responded to this down here somewhere, didn't you?
Yeah. Keep going. It's on page 2. It's the first one on page 2. Or maybe second. Maybe third. I keep going.
That's all there is. I thought I saw it earlier. Let's see.
You may have a different screen size.
Oh, here it is right here. I've got it sorted backwards. So here. This is it right here, your list.
Yep. There we go, right there. And the problem is, one of those pictures, if any of those pieces are missing, then especially the thick washers, the knob will butt up against the bottom of the mount before it pulls the right ascension or declination axis in far enough to engage the pressure plate. And so it'll more or less spin freely.
I see. Even though you got it cranked all the way tight, it's just...
Right. It's up against the black part of the mount.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, he shows it. Go up into one of the original pictures, Jerry, and he shows it.
Down here?
Up, I think. Up at the top. The original post.
The original post. This is backwards compared to yours because this is the latest. Let me sort it backwards. I've got the dates sorted opposite.
I probably need
all right, this right here.
So go to the first picture. Yeah,
there's a broken washer.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How did that happen?
Cut. That looks cut.
It does. I mean, it looks like it's clean.
Pretty
look how clean that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely clean. So we'll have to get him a new one.
Yeah.
We'll get it out of Germany probably.
So you want to see which picture?
The first one, first left, right there. Correct. So see how the clutch is butted up against the black base?
Right there where it's tight.
Correct. He's got it. There should be an air gap there. So he's got it so there's a washer missing, so it can't pull. Well, in this case, the counter rod down enough, that shaft down enough to engage the clutch bearing, so it just sort of spins freely.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, is that a sound effect in the background there?
Is that a what?
Is that a sound effect?
So,
yeah, that's my. Those are my sound effects. So when I get angry, you can hear that.
so Jerry, go back to that screen again. Go back to your shared screen, and scroll down to Joseph Richards' picture.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's a 17-pound telescope.
Oh, dogs.
The dogs are trying to warn everybody that they're putting too much weight on this mount.
That's an Exos 100.
All right.
With a 11.25 pound Exos 2 with PMC-8 counterweight.
Yeah.
And the two standard iXos 100 counterweights it's a heavy duty tripod and it's got the adjuster plate. So we know the weight goes up a little bit.
Wow.
But that's a 17-pound telescope without the camera or anything else, okay? And he's obviously, this is a planet killer. And Jerry, let's see what some of those pictures he got for killing planets.
Killing planets. Where are they? Are they in the thread too? I can't
they're
remember.
in that thread too somewhere.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. I'll zoom up on them.
And this is with a DSLR.
Nice.
No focal extender.
Yeah.
So somebody had made a suggestion on a way to process them a little better.
Yeah.
To bring out more surface detail on Mars.
Sure.
And Mars is notoriously hard to take pictures of. You know, it's never big. But
no, this is really good though. It shows a lot of good detail. I mean,
yeah,
especially...
it does. He's got that rim and he's going to work on processing out. But Joseph Richards doing some really great work. Planetary with a 2300 focal length telescope. He's on a Exos 100 on a $345 base mount. Of course, he's upgraded it, but still.
Look at the focal length.
Yeah, 5,400 millimeters. I guess he does have a focal extender in there of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Just showing the work that can happen. So I looked over at the screen. Anshul is with us. Hi, Anshul Puri. And who's on Facebook? Oh, Wolfgang's here. Dave Connolly from Ireland. Hey.
Yeah.
We've got someone from Ireland today.
Yeah,
welcome.
We have Peter North here. We've got people from everywhere.
Well, we've got a new one, Al Adassi,
right?
Hello from Sultanate of Oman.
Yeah, very cool.
Hey, welcome.
Yep. Nice to see all you guys.
Yep. Peter North. No, I'm not going to say that. That's a.
What was that?
Nothing. I'm not going to say his name. It's just Peter North.
Yep.
Yeah. An old adult film star.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess he could be really him. What else you got, Scott?
Okay. So there was some questions about the ND driver and what it can work with. ND works with Linux, works with Mac. What can you tell us about the ND driver, Jerry? This was developed by.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm distracted. I'm looking. You see me looking up. I'm getting a feed on my TV and turning it down.
Right.
So the ND driver.
Yeah, that was developed by Michael Fulbright.
Michael Fulbright. That's right. And we're going to actually schedule him onto the program here in a couple of weeks. I think I've talked to him today about that.
Excellent.
So the ND driver is similar to the ASCOM driver on Windows. It was developed for Linux. And it's got a little different architecture than the ASCOM driver. The ASCOM driver has been around for almost 20 years now. So that was early on in the development of a lot of the technology that we take for granted today. Bob Denny did that. Oh. Whenever somebody comes in the house, they just go nuts. Right. I've got some work going on my house also today, so that's part of the reason they're barking.
I didn't know they let dogs into mission control.
Yeah, I know. They're service dogs, so you have to let them in.
Okay, yeah, comfort dogs for space exploration.
They bark for space exploration.
Right. So it's like the original dogs that were launched into space.
Yeah, it's those guys.
They're test articles.
Yes.
Anyway, the ND drivers were developed more recently in the last 5 to 8 years ago. I'm not exactly sure when it started, but that's when applications started wanting to have that kind of architecture. And it's a server-based architecture right off the bat, as opposed to a local COM object architecture, which is Windows, as the Windows technology. So it was built directly to work on networks, to share objects over networks. So if you're not familiar with what object-oriented programming is, it creates these objects that are devices or program modules, functions. It's an object-oriented system where you can connect up objects across the network, basically, whether they're devices or programs or functions that you want to do. That's kind of the architecture. So Michael Fulbright worked with me. He's a Linux guy, big time Linux guy. He got the PMC-Eight G11 mount, and he wanted to be able to use it with his Linux box instead of using Windows. He's a little averse to Windows, which is understandable. Everybody has their own likes and dislikes. Yeah, that's no problem.
When you say he's a big Linux guy, is he a programmer as well, or?
Oh yeah, he programs a lot of stuff.
Hence him making the ND driver, right?
Right. So he likes the OpenGOTO philosophy with our sharing our code. So he was able to use the documentation I had created and the ASCOM driver as a model in terms of the functionality in the code to build the ND driver. Because the ND driver has basically the same functions in the API, it's called the Application Programming Interface, to do the functions you need to control a mount. There's basically the same functions. So he was able to take the code that I had developed on the ASCOM driver and convert it over and build it into the ND driver and get it working. And that's what's made it available to everybody. So we're going to be talking more about that. He's going to be explaining the architecture when he comes on. And it's available for Linux, but it also runs. There's a ND server that's available for Mac OS, and that's what the most recent questions have been about. How can I get this working on Mac OS? So he'll be able to talk to that also.
I see.
When are we going to have him on? Do we know?
In a couple of weeks, probably the week of the 15th.
Okay.
Excellent. We're going to have, you mentioned also another guest who would be coming on this week. That's Chris Moses, right?
Chris Moses, right. He developed and built the configuration manager, the PMC-8 configuration manager, which everybody relies on now to do a few things. Update the firmware. We talked about that in past episodes, and also to switch configurations on the communications mode between serial wired mode and the wireless Wi-Fi mode that ExploreStars uses. The ASCOM driver can use both wireless and wired, but we always suggest people, if they're doing astrophotography with ASCOM, that they go ahead and get a cable and use the wired mode because it's more reliable.
Right.
But we have people doing it unwired, though, correct?
Oh yeah, people are doing astrophotography with ExploreStars.
You mean wireless?
And ASCOM wireless. That's right, wireless.
Unwired, wireless, I don't know.
Anti-wired, de-wired.
Anti-wired,
Not the
de-wired,
uncola. The uncola is the same.
not
The unwired.
wired.
The unwired. We're not wireless. We're the unwired.
That's right. That's
Marketing
right.
slogan trademark.
I prefer to be wired.
Yeah. Are you
Yes,
wired? Yeah.
right. We got a lot of funny conversation going on with our guest today. I hope you guys are all having fun. Um, we had we had that giant plume of dust come through, and I was hoping to get out and maybe do a little bit of observing this weekend or last weekend, but didn't really clear off until today. So we're back down to healthy levels, with the dust situation.
Yeah,
But
everybody in the southeast U.S. are suffering from really
oh yeah,
really weird colored skies. It was like at one point it was sort of like being on Mars. It was a really sort of a red tint on
yeah,
Saturday, and it was a very strange
yeah. Well,
all day long
just
colored
seeing the
sky.
global maps of the dust plume coming through, it did remind me of like dust storms on Mars, where the
Yeah.
global dust storms that can
That
happen.
come that come from the Middle East somewhere? Is that where it came
Sahara,
from?
Sahara.
the
The
Sahara.
Sahara.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was pretty cool. I mean,
We're
people
all
didn't like it,
connected.
but I still thought it was really interesting. So
It just proves we're all connected.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, Mr. Thump 30 said it's here in Nebraska now. I think I owe Mr. Thump 30 a phone call, so I'm going to have to give him a buzz, and we'll have to talk about the G11. Um, so, what other topics did we have? We had something about uh, leveling the mount or leveling the tripod on the IXS 100. Seems to be a kind of a simple.
Yeah, there was a question about uh, what good. Why do you have to level? Because the mount can be oriented any which way to as long as the polar alignment. As you get the right ascension axis pointed right at the north celestial pole. But there are other considerations. That's not the only consideration for level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The main one, which I consider really a little more important, is the fact that if you're portable and you want to have consistent results and you don't want to waste time doing a polar alignment from scratch every time, what you're going to do is you're going to make marks on the ground or wherever you set up your tripod. Make sure you put your tripod at the same identical location in terms of where you want the legs to sit. And then you're going to also level your mount because if you start out with a level mount every time you set up, then you put your mount on the level tripod, I should say, then it's going to be very close to polar alignment every time. And that saves you a lot of effort when you're doing a polar alignment if you're portable. That to me is a more important factor. The other factor, which depending on how level you are, can throw you off some, is that when you level north-south on the tripod, if you're not quite level, you can correct that with the altitude adjustment because that's in the same plane as the north-south axis. That's the altitude adjustment. But if you have it on the east-west plane on your tripod, that's a tilt, okay, to the mount. So if you don't have that quite right in that orientation, then you'll have a tilt in your mount, and it will not, even though you're polar aligned perfectly, it will not track accurately because the coordinate system of the telescope is not aligned with the coordinate system of the sky, of the celestial coordinate system. You're tilted.
Right.
You're at an angle.
It's always going to be.
So when you slew, it's going to go off target. So that's another reason to make sure you're level in the east-west direction, not just the north-south.
So Jerry, sitting here, I just saw Gary Palmer's name, who says the imaging competition will start with his Galileo scope. We look forward to seeing what kind of images you can get through that. But the RA will be tipped. I guess suppose you could recenter the RA, right, and as we establish a new home position. Would that fix things?
You mean in terms of the level?
Right. If you weren't level, but he reestablished a perfect
Now,
vertical.
so what you're saying, what you're suggesting, I think, is that you would be off polar alignment, and then your RA axis might be aligned. Is that what you're saying? Well, how would you adjust your RA axis to be correct if you didn't adjust it in altitude or azimuth?
You could I'm saying you could you rotate the because if you're tilted, the counterweight bar is going to be like this. Would you be able to?
It's not just the RA; it's
back?
a combination. It's a combination deck and RA. So any deck you're pointing at, other than the North Celestial Pole, it won't track right in RA. When you rotate it in RA at a certain deck, if you think about it in your head and what it's doing, it's drawing a different circle in the sky than what the actual circle should be when you're polar aligned and you're level, is what it comes down to.
So there was also questions over the weekend about the bubble level.
Yes.
And the bubble levels are a convenience item, but they can be off by a couple of degrees.
Yes.
Potentially. Right.
But what you can do is you can calibrate them. And the way you do that is you get a good level, and level your tripod and put your mount on it.
Like a big carpenter level or something.
Right. And then maintain and make sure that the mount is level. There's a couple of spots that you should be able to put your level on to make sure it's level. And then you look at the bubble and you say, okay, this is the configuration it's in when it's level. So then you can draw a circle or make a mark on the level with a permanent marker to say, this is where I want the bubble to be to indicate level. And then you're good to go.
Then you can use the bubble level.
Then you've calibrated the bubble level basically to another level.
Okay. So you just have to figure out a way to use the bubble level. All right. So Mr. Thump 30 has a question. Do the mounts with PMC-8 have anything similar to Celestron All-Star polar alignment?
No,
well,
not really.
The thing is about the PMC-8 is it's a precision motion controller. These alignment methods are in apps themselves. Okay, so like the ExploreStars app has alignment routines. We have a 2-star and a 3-star alignment routine. The sync commands that are in Carte du Ciel and Stellarium and all the rest of it, that is their alignment method. So I assume that if someone wanted to create an alignment routine in one of those apps, that we could have it. But it's that the PMC-8 itself will never inherently have its own alignment routine. Correct?
Right, so that's outside the realm of the firmware in the PMC-8. That's in the application level or the ASCOM driver level. So, but what we're talking about here also is the fact that we've got I call it a virtual alignment and a physical alignment. Okay, so the virtual alignment is what we have in ExploreStars, where you can do a 2- and 3-star alignment to virtually model the mount coordinate system, and that drives the right ascension and declination axis accordingly to keep the object in the center of the eyepiece. And the other is to do a physical alignment with the polar alignment scope, or with another tool like I can't remember the name, the PoleMaster. So what he's suggesting, I think, is the fact that do we have a way to do a physical alignment, a routine that will take either the model that we've created and drive you to adjust the altitude and azimuth to make a physical polar alignment based on that data, or if there's a routine in an application like that we would have that would help you do like the PoleMaster does, basically help you to align the information, the physically polar align it that way. Those are the things we don't have right now.
Yeah, but what about programs that do work through ASCOM that do plate solving?
Yeah, so this is kind of a I don't want to call it a hack. It's an alternate method, and you've done it yourself, Scott, where you figure out where you're pointed at a star. Let's say you slew to a star.
Yeah.
And the mount's orthogonality is correct, where it's got correct axes, and it's got a close physical alignment.
Mhm.
you want to physically adjust. You basically adjust the altitude and azimuth to put it on the star.
Right.
I do that too. I've
That's
done
your
that
method, right?
numerous times.
Yep.
So that's a workaround, kind of a workaround or an alternative method to get the
The
same
hack you
physical
can
polar
do during
alignment.
the daytime, if you can see like Venus in broad daylight, I have aligned my telescope where it was high noon, and you got the tripod level. You can see, you find Venus in bright daylight, and for a lot of people are surprised to find it, because
Hmm.
it's something they don't expect to see. I think Venus gets reported as a UFO a lot. Um, but if you do that and then you punch in Venus, it goes to Venus. Be careful of the sun, guys, because it could slew
Yep.
across the sun. But but once you kind of have it in the finder, then you can adjust out the mount to get onto Venus, and then from there you can hop over to double stars. You'd be amazed how many stars you can see in broad daylight with the telescope. So.
But that's kind of a shortcut. That's an easy method that we would implement maybe in software, but it's just as well a technique that you might want to learn to do the alignment that way, the physical alignment, because
Mhm.
pretty much you can count on the PMC-8 being very close, very accurate and pointing within a few arc minutes, which for the most part is good enough to get an alignment within a few arc minutes, basically. Especially for visual use.
Mhm.
Now, astrophotography, you're going to tweak it a little more, but at least that will get you very close, very quickly, and you can basically use a magnetic compass to plop it down to
Right.
azimuth, and then you can also
You know
just
what the
adjust the
magnetic
altitude close.
deviation of your local area is. You
Right.
can compensate for that.
You can get
So
within a degree on both axes on your altitude and your azimuth, and then once you get that, then you slew to the object and you tweak your altitude and azimuth to get it right on the money on that object, and then you're within a few arc minutes.
sure.
And that's pretty quick. I mean, it really is pretty quick.
Right.
No, you don't need to buy PoleMaster, or you don't need, and it can work. The other thing, it's an all sky way, like you suggested. It's not just doesn't just use the North Pole. It's an all sky technique to do an alignment.
So we got some comments here. Dusty Haskins is saying he's saying that's what I do. He was talking about part of the polar alignment routines. But I still use my polar scope every time too, so you don't think it's needed. Actually, if you're getting a polar alignment one way, no, you don't need to go back down and do it another way, unless you don't trust what you did, So, um,
Or
but,
you want to verify it, I
or if
guess.
you want to
You can,
verify it,
well,
absolutely.
but that's another way you can align your polar alignment scope too. So if you've done this accurate polar alignment, you know it's good. You've done, and then you've gone further and done a drift alignment. Then you can look through your polar scope and say, "Oh,
Hmm.
that's off. I
Right.
need to collimate it."
Right.
So you can work the problem backwards that way, and adjust your polar alignment scope.
Yeah. Angela Puri is saying, great advice. Tripod at the same point on the ground, altitude adjustment. Okay, where you're putting it down the same way every time. Do you believe it may be better than to have a permanent concrete base instead of a tripod if it allows? Sure. If you got a
Of
permanent
course, yeah.
concrete base and everything's all tweaked on the latitude, and that base is level, sure. Just
You
pop your
can get
mount back
by.
on there
You can
and
get away from your homeowners association if you make a pier out there,
yeah.
and you pull your mount off and you put a bird bath on top and say that's my bird bath, or that's my sundial. Put a
Sundial.
sundial on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there's
And
guys,
then
there's guys that have put like, we call them coffins, where it's just the piers there, but you put something beautiful. It could be, ivy growing down from a plant or something around a column, that you made out of sonotube or something, and leaving, if you can leave the mount up, okay, that's also very nice, So If you're going to do that, I'm going to recommend that you regularly wipe it down with a water displacement like WD-40 or something like that, just to keep rust off of it. Keep it clean and keep it from getting wet. If it rains or something. But the mount should be able to deal with being out, like that all the time. I mean, there's really no difference for a mount than having it stored in an observatory, for example.
Right, it's going to be at ambient temperature all the time, and as long as it's covered, that should be fine.
Yeah. Gary Palmer makes a comment. He says the problem with lots of bubble levels is that they change with the outside temperature. Yeah, so that's another reason why you might want to get, if you're really trying to level something out, get something that is more precision, just a longer level piece on there. Jenny says, last week we had someone on the forum who reported their mount was slewing in the wrong direction. He shared a screenshot of his coordinates he entered into the ASCOM driver. Ultimately, the DMS coordinates were not converted to the correct decimal value. And she says he was using DMS coordinates in Stellarium. Okay.
What's DMS stand for?
Degrees, minutes, and seconds instead of decimal degrees is what we use, decimal degrees.
Yeah.
And so how do you convert them? I know there's a mathematical formula Jerry has
it's just
memorized. Or you search the internet and search for DMS calculator,
right?
And plug in
I've
your
got
numbers.
I've of course got it in my head. I do it all the time, so I've learned this technique. It's really simple. So there's 3,600 seconds in a degree, and there's 60 minutes in a degree. So you basically take the decimal value and multiply it by, you take the full degrees off, you take the decimal value, multiply by 60, that'll give you the integer value for the minutes, and then you multiply the remainder by 60 again, and that'll give you the seconds. That's the easiest way to do from decimal back to DMS. And then you do, to go back to decimal, you go your seconds and divide it by 60, add that to your minutes, divide that by 60, and that's it.
Or you go to your favorite search engine and search for DMS to decimal degrees, click on the first entry and put in your numbers, and out pops the answer.
That's easier.
Unless you don't have a computer handy.
Jerry.
Or you can't keep it in your head.
We all have computers handy.
We won't have to worry about that in about 20 years when everybody's got an implant.
I'm going to get that as quickly as I can.
So actually, there's this website called Rapid Tables that I use to do it, that does show the method that Jerry just described in a printed out version that makes it visually to see how to do it.
Okay. So, all right. So Jenny also, she asks, would it be possible to change the ASCOM driver to add a chooser for the type of coordinates entered into the driver setup? Yeah. That'd be a great. Why don't Jenny, if you could enter that into our feature request subgroup, that would be awesome. There's a lot of things like that make it easier. One of the other things that people had talked about that I see in other programs is a way to, like put in your zip code, and it gives you the closest, or gives you your coordinates for that, latitude and longitude for your close. Mm-hmm. But that's not perfect. It gets you close enough for visual use. I never did that because I didn't have the time to spend on those types of features is really what it came down to when I was doing this development.
And the reality is zip code would only work in the United States, and you'd have to go to postal code in Canada, and India.
There's a lot of work involved in getting all that stuff right. if you pick the wrong thing or it's wrong in the database, it's just like having a wrong database on the astronomical objects. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, although the astrometric data in a lot of the databases has improved greatly over the years, there's still, just because it's coming from the U.S. Naval Observatory or some of these other databases that have been relied upon and used by professionals for years and years, there is astrometric errors, in some of these databases. In fact, some of them are intentional for databases that are copyrighted, So they put in the error so that if they go back and wonder if you've copied their copyrighted database, they go back and they go, okay, there's the error. Hey, buddy,
right.
You owe me money.
Well, you can create objects in the database, and then people won't know if they're real or not. You could just create Scott Roberts already has an object out there in space. We can create another Scott Roberts nebula, and say this is where it's at.
That's right.
We got a Scott Roberts asteroid already out there.
Mm-hmm. It'll be a dark nebula.
It'll be evil.
Evil. That's right. This is a funny response from Ansel Puri. He says, great response. Thank you. Not worried about the homeowners association in my case, since the concrete base will be in a private backyard. He says he's more worried about his wife.
Bird bath.
That's
Way
right.
to go.
Bird bath, a plant holder, something.
Sundials are nice. I like sundials.
Sundials are nice too, but
What are those?
We think they're nice because we're astronomers. So,
what are the mirrored balls that you put in garden fairy?
Oh, like garden fairy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a little pretty reflective ball. Or,
you could put a garden gnome. You could put a gnome on top of the pier too.
Yeah.
Holding a telescope, a Galileo scope. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can put a gnome or something like that. Anything, whatever makes other people happy, so that you can do your hobby and get away with it, is all good in my book.
That sounds pretty bad. Get away with doing astronomy. We all just get away with it.
Just getting away with it. That's right. That's right.
So, hey Scott.
Well, that's what makes it more fun if you're getting away with something,
Hey Scott, we've got some swag to give away. You want me to
we do. Okay. All right. Why don't you talk about it? Yeah.
Okay. Hang on a second.
Swag. Okay.
Swag. Hang on a second.
What's under the
now? What does swag mean, anyways?
Hang on.
Yeah. Let's show us the swag, Kent.
Hang on.
Let's bring it up.
Super wonderful.
Take me off the screen for a minute.
Awesome goods. Swag.
So, am I off the screen?
No, you're not off the screen. You want me to take you off?
Take me off. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I gotta get set up for it.
Poof.
We good?
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're gonna have something to give away, and you're gonna like this. Maybe.
It's gonna be scary.
Maybe
you'll be scary when you first see it.
That's right. If you're easily scared, maybe shut your eyes right now. We sent some stuff already to the UK, so we'll send it anywhere in the world. Okay. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's have a drum roll from the audience. I can't hear them, but I'll just imagine it's going. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, what's that?
It's a COVID-19 Explore Scientific mask.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of see the logo. Oh yeah.
See, we can
the
double it
golden
up.
O, right where the mouth is supposed to go.
Yeah, right there.
Nice.
Can you see it? There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got.
Yeah, don't go into your bank.
No, actually.
Well, you probably can't go in anyways, but
we're going to market this as the Explore Scientific Bank Robbery Kit.
Bank robbery kit. So we actually have some of these guys. Mine's here somewhere, but so we have to have a. Jerry, you're so good at coming up with these things. Okay, so we're going to let you come up with the question. All right.
Oh man. Okay. So.
And not another 1970s song. Okay.
Oh man, it'll be the 80s. So I sent Scott an image from a concert that looked like it had the Explore Scientific logo in the background. Remember on the big video screen? Remember that picture, Scott?
I've slept since then.
So there was a group that was at this concert.
Okay.
It's a 1980s group. Think about it's named after an aircraft in World War II, and they had a song. Let me see if I can. Rome was the song.
Rome?
We had Rome, the Celestial Sphere.
It wasn't a World War II aircraft.
Oh, it was after World War II. You're right. That's right. It wasn't
after.
It was after World War II. It was during.
It's the first piece of military hardware that's estimated to be in full service for more than.
Don't give them too much. Don't give them too much.
That's enough.
Yeah, careful. Okay, so we got Mr. Thump 30 says Jethro Tull. Jenny says the B-52s. Oh! All right, Jenny. All you guys said B-52s. All right, so Led Zeppelin. No, not Led Zeppelin.
Well, Charles,
that's who I thought it was. I was picking Led Zeppelin. So I can't even get one.
So the answer is
the B-52s.
B-52s with the song Rome.
Yep.
All right.
And we roam the celestial sphere when we do astronomy.
That's right. And Jenny was the first one to get it right, so she gets a set. We have two different models of this.
She gets a set.
They're called buffs. Is that what they're called? A buff? I don't know.
That's what the B-52 is called. Yeah.
Bus.
A buff.
Big, ugly, fat fellow.
Fat flyer.
Fellow.
You guys are crazy. Charles Peak said, you too. B-17 was Bergman's scooter. There was a band called B-17? I don't know.
There should be.
Yeah. Matthew got it right.
I always thought there should be a band called No Trucks. Then you can use
Wolfgang says he doesn't know about music. We'll have to pick different questions next time. Okay. Well, we're getting towards the end of our time here. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, we're going to have an Explore Now episode with Dustin Gibson of OPT, and he's going to talk about his astrophotography that he does. Dustin uses astrophotography as an outreach tool, and he engages the audience around the world through his Twitch feeds and social media. He's also a regular host on a podcast called Space Junk, and it'll be a lot of fun to have him on. That will be at 6 o'clock Central tomorrow. So, and we've got more to come, which we'll make announcements for. Do you guys have anything more that you'd like to wrap up?
We probably we're getting a global audience, so we need to start thinking about converting our 6 o'clock and 4 o'clock Central Time, daylight time, to 3 or 4
universal time.
To universal time.
Maybe we'll give both. We'll do we'll give our local time and universal time. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So that way our global audience can figure out when they need to log in.
Yeah, you're astronomers out there. You'll have to figure out UT and convert it back to your local time. Anyhow, we really appreciate you guys watching. It was a lot of fun today, and we will see you tomorrow. And keep looking up, everyone.
Yep,
bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.